Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Polygon and its native token MATIC. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So MATIC has been doing exceptionally well recently, and this is one of the layer 2s we've been following here for quite a while, mainly on the premium list, into thecryptoverse.com, but of course sometimes on the public channel. And as I said last time that we talked about it, I do think this is a solid project. Now, I mean, again, right now it is closing in on price discovery mode. You know, Bitcoin has been in a systematic downtrend for quite a while. I mean, you could argue that Bitcoin is potentially breaking that downtrend, but we still have a bit of work to do, I think, to really prove that because we just need a little bit more time, I think, to see, okay, what's it going to do here? Is it a fake out? Are we going to actually resume this trend and keep coming back up? What's going to happen? So we do still have a lot of work to do on Bitcoin. But despite that, despite everything that Bitcoin has experienced, MATIC hasn't really missed a beat. If you look at Bitcoin weekly candles, let's go look at Bitcoin weekly candles. And one of the things you'll notice is over the last several weeks, in fact, Bitcoin has been in several weeks of red candles. Okay, so I mean we're in a green one right now. Potentially, we'll have to wait until we close the week. But you can see before this week, four of the last five weekly candles were in fact red. Before this week, MATIC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, four of the last five candles were green. So, as I said, despite everything, MATIC has not missed a beat, okay? And one of the things we've talked about is you can argue that we're sort of, we're in this general uptrend. And we're closing in on in fact, price discovery mode, all right? So let's switch this over to the daily time frame and look to see, some of the levels that we would be looking for in order to reach said price discovery mode. Okay, so price discovery mode, of course, is always interesting because then you have you don't necessarily have all the same types of walls at all the same different price points because you can imagine that for people who bought, who bought Bitcoin at say 60K or 65K or 69K, if that's where their cost basis is for their entire stack, some of them might just want to get out and they just set their sells there. And if one day it goes to those prices, they're happy to get out. They don't care about making any more profits on it. They'd rather just cut their losses and move on. At a potentially lower price or break even. Whereas once you get into price discovery mode, I mean, everyone who's bought that token for the entire history is in profit, right? As long as you're buying it spot, you're watching it go up, everyone's in profit. And so the same, you don't see this exactly the same type of walls come in. Now, eventually people do take profits and then you have the new bag holders, right? That then have to wait. But look, it's in an uptrend. In order for MATIC to get to price discovery mode, it needs to go all the way up to about, let's call it 275 or so, 276, all right? You can see that the highest price was over here on this daily candle, and based on that one, it says it reached around 278, in fact. So let's call it 279. 279 MATIC will get it to price discovery mode, and not anything below it. I saw some people saying that we're in price discovery mode here, because it's higher than over here. But you have to remember that back in May, before we had that major crash, MATIC actually went up a bit higher. And actually, I was looking for a good entry on MATIC, and I waited until the after we had this crazy drop, and then have been DCAing it for many months now. And so it's interesting to see it approaching the new all-time highs. But I think what's more interesting is the fact that it's been doing this while Bitcoin has been in a downtrend. Okay, that's exceptional to me. Now, you should think about all possible scenarios. All right. Now, my thesis for Bitcoin, and again, we don't know if it's correct or not. I mean, it's not automatic, as you might say. But we don't know yet if lengthening cycles will prevail. I think it will, right? I think lengthening cycles will prevail. And so because I think that, I think the market will still generally trend up with time. If you fall in a different camp, if you don't think the cycle's lengthened, if you think the cycle is already over, then you'd probably be speculating that even MATIC could put in a double top potentially and then come back down. So you have to consider all sides to the equation. Again, I subscribe to lengthening cycles. That's what I think is going to happen. But don't be blinded by just one person's theory on the internet. Look at all cases. Obviously, that could be another case you could theoretically look at. With that said, it looks like a general uptrend to me. Pretty classic example. We've seen a lot of these play out this market cycle. More importantly, how does it hold up against the US dollar isn't really that important. How does it hold up against Bitcoin? How does it hold up against Ethereum? And against Bitcoin, it's been doing exceptionally well. And it's even approaching a new all-time high in the MATIC Bitcoin valuation. In order for MATIC to reach a new all-time high against Bitcoin, it needs to go up about 26%. So if Bitcoin were to stay constant, which it won't, but if it did, a 26% move by MATIC for the US dollar would actually take it to about 318 or 319. So it would in fact be in price discovery mode if it made it there. Now, what do we see here against Bitcoin? What do you need? You don't just want an oscillator against Bitcoin. If all it does is oscillate against Bitcoin, what's the point, right? What's the point? You're better off just buying Bitcoin than taking on a lot more risk just to get something that oscillates against Bitcoin. Pretty good move by MATIC against Bitcoin, right? You take it, this move here, you're talking about a very modest 10 or 11,000% move, not against the US dollar, against Bitcoin. And Bitcoin also went up a lot, so that's saying something. The real test for any altcoin is, does it bleed against Ethereum? And I think it's okay if an altcoin oscillates against Ethereum, because again, Ethereum is inherently more risky than Bitcoin on a lot of different levels. Okay, I know some people might say it's not, but there are other fundamental risks, especially more regulation risks that you have to keep in mind for Ethereum that are not necessarily the same risks for Bitcoin. So what does MATIC do against Ethereum? And what you see is that, okay, it was in this uptrend for a while. Remember, coins that are in uptrends against Ethereum, they will relinquish that uptrend for periods of time as well, because it's not like every altcoin is just going to only ever go up against ETH. But look, we talked about this in the last video as well. It looks like a long reaccumulation zone for the MATIC Ether valuation. All right. So I think it looks pretty good. I think the only cause for potential concern, which I don't buy myself. I don't subscribe to the idea that the cycle's over. Again, maybe that makes me a fool. Maybe I'm stubborn and I'm going to stick with lengthening cycles, but that's just what it is. The data tells me the cycle's lengthened. I assume the cycle's lengthened. But the one thing to, I think, watch to show that MATIC really does have that strength we're looking for is look for these breakouts, okay? Look for the breakout against Ethereum. In order to break out against Ethereum, the valuation of MATIC would, in fact, need to climb approximately 46% against ETH. Okay, so look for that breakout. Look for a breakout against Bitcoin where it needs to go up 26% against Bitcoin, and then look for a breakout against the US dollar. In order to break out to new all-time highs for the US dollar, it still needs to go up about 10 or 11%. So it still has some work to do, right? We still have work to do. There is no free lunch, unfortunately. I wish there were. There is no free lunch in crypto. You know the risks involved. There are the inherent risks of anything that could happen. But it doesn't change the fact that MATIC has been in an uptrend despite everything that Bitcoin has gone through over the last 5 weeks. MATIC is continuing to push higher and higher and higher. And rather than put in lower highs like Bitcoin has been doing, it's instead putting in higher lows. Okay. So, for instance, if Bitcoin were to get a shakeout back to 47K or something, it's not like it'd be that crazy for MATIC to drop back down to the trend line and maybe even go all the way back to $2 potentially. I'm not saying it's going to go to $2, but we were just at $2 a week ago. So let's not, we were at a 180 a week ago. So let's not pretend like it can't happen. So what do you get if you pretend these things can't happen? So let's see what happens. If you actually look at the daily closes here, you can see it looks a lot nicer. For being honest. Let's see what happens on the daily, because this turned into a wick. This turned into a wick. Now the question is, on the daily, is that going to turn into a wick? We should know soon enough, okay? So hopefully you guys enjoy the content. If you do, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon, turn on notifications. We did the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. You'll get access to weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, trading view indicators, and more. make sure you guys check it out. Thank you for tuning in, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.